Welcome to this video, and in today's video I just wanted to talk about the certain changes and a new found mindset that I just had to adapt. I always talk about the fact that I've been going through a transformation this past couple of months, but then I didn't realize the whole process was just like an awakening. It was like a spiritual awakening. So unfortunately, I wouldn't say unfortunate, but I had to go through it in the most gruesome way possible so I could wake up and see things for what it really is and not just live in my delusions of what I've been conditioned to learn or what I've been conditioned to think like. So the spiritual awakening I went through was just based on the fact that I had hit rock bottom. So there's certain ways people have awakenings. Some people just come in contact with somebody and they have an awakening. Some people just have it naturally. Some people have it when they hit rock bottom, and that's the one that actually triggered mine. So that's why I was going through certain transformations of try to, just figure out how to make sense of the situation. It was in different stages. I had to kill the ego. It wasn't something I had to do. Circumstances just made it like that I had no choice but to just let the ego die. So ever since that's happened, I've come to the realization of a lot of things we see on a day-to-day basis that seems natural, that seems normal. It doesn't really add up. I'm starting to question everything. I'm starting to do a lot of research. And since I've been doing a lot of research, it's been leading me down the rabbit hole, bro. So many things that I've been realizing that's being portrayed as normal. It's not normal, bro. It's not normal, bro. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is like the way we live in today's society. It's been a process since we were young, like right from birth. We've been conditioned to think certain things are the way it's just supposed to be. Even what we were taught in school, like growing up, the whole system and everything, it's just been a way to condition us to think a certain way. Why do I say that? Apparently, all this thing I'm about to say, it's online. You can check it out. I'm not just making up things or trying to be a conspiracy theorist. These things are online. You can check it out. Apparently, there was a social, I wouldn't say social, but I'll say social. There was a social construct that was laid down way before we even came. Like the system we have today just highlights everything that was outlined for us to live within. It's like a system of control. They condition you to think a certain way. The way things happened in the past is definitely not the way we was being taught. But then you got to do your own research to actually find your truth, to know what you're gonna live by. Like, no doubt, everybody grows up being conditioned in the same way, but then it's just a few people that can actually wake up, or a few people that go through these awakenings and see that things the way they are not meant to be the way they are. Certain people have awakenings to different aspects. Some people go through an awakening and they're more fascinated with quantum physics and space. Some people are fascinated with star signs. Some people are fascinated with history. It's just different things that resonates with you. And I feel like I wouldn't just want to limit myself to just one particular aspect, because once I awoken, I started seeing true potential in human beings. I started realizing our true potentials, and seeing we're much more powerful than you can imagine. Like, we're much more powerful than you can imagine. So these things, these conditionings have been put here to make us not realize how powerful we are, because the people that's in control, or the people that came up with these rules, orders, they want to stay in control. And the more they stay in control, the more it benefits them. And I'm going to be talking about it from a different perspective. I just talked about it in the way we perceive this reality. But then if you want to talk about it in a spiritual aspect, it goes back to the time of Adam and Eve. When God sent the devil out of heaven, he became a fallen angel, all that. The same way God created humans, angels, and everything, it's the same way the devil has his own cabal. He has different races, different things that's created to follow his direction, the same way we were created here to follow God's direction. So these things, it's been a cannonball effect, because the way that happened is they were sent out of heaven and they vowed to make sure humanity, destructs in the same way. I don't know, it's a lot of things like that. So these things, they ended up not being able to connect to the light source, that's God's source, because everything was created by God. So we need him to continue to recreate and do a lot of things. Everything is by the power of the Lord. But the fact that these beings, they don't have that connection no more. So what they do, they tend to prey on human beings. Human beings were the closest source to God, apart from like the angels and prophets and stuff. Yeah, prophets as well, because they were human beings that were put here to spread a message. So the fact that we're the closest link to God, it just made the devil see how he could infiltrate that same source and connect to it as well. And that's why these constructs were put here today, to keep us in a state where they can feed off our life force. Everything's online, you can check it out. So it goes back to a whole early civilization. When you start researching on ancient Egypt, the Anunnaki and different things like that, it goes back to ancient Egypt, the Anunnakis, the Nephilims, and things like that. At that time, those were the purest forms of human beings, because apparently we have different dimensions. There's a video of a high school kid explaining the 4th dimension, but apparently we have up to 12 dimensions. So those early human beings, they had 12D experiences in their DNAs. They could tap into source itself. Their manifestations were easy. They were able to build a whole civilization. They were able to build the pyramids and different things like that because of the vibration they were vibrating in. That's the highest form of human consciousness. But the fact that they were under attack, apparently everything's online, you can check it out. The fact that they were under attack from different external bodies, the aliens and things like that, they just had to, human being civilization, we had to be forced down to just the regular 3D plane, and that's the world we're living in right now. But then they understood that human beings were the closest source to God. That's why they were able to, do things like that. Some people had psychic abilities, some people could teleport. Everything's online, you could check it out. They could do different things like that. So the devil and his agents found a way to feed off that and draw life source from human beings to feed themselves. They said they were attacked, so they had to flee. And the people that were left behind, that's the regular humans we are today. But then we've been downgraded to our 3D form, the city of Atlantis and things like that. They said they existed and they were the highest of civilization, bro. So when that happened and we were downgraded to the 3D form, and that's just what the world we live in today, our DNAs forgot most of our abilities. We weren't able to tap into source anymore because that connection to source was cut off. It was cut off temporarily, so they were able to feed off human beings. That's why they were able to get in positions of power, and they could negotiate and create different world orders or systems that's going to keep us in a low frequency state. Thoughts create emotions, and those emotions are a life force. The higher you vibrate, the higher you vibrate closer to God and you reach higher consciousness. They understood that if you're vibrating at a high frequency, they can feed off your life force. And our life force is called Loosh. It's online, you can check it out, Loosh. And it can be used in a positive way and a negative way. When you're using it in a positive way, that's when you have the drive, you have the motivation, you have the resilience to accomplish your dreams and things like that. But then when you vibrate at a low frequency, that's depression, sadness, anxiety, that's when they can feed off your Loosh, they can feed off your energy, or maintain their life force so they keep living eternally. So when they figured out how they could feed off that life force, the people that was in power back then, they knew how to make them come together and create a system, the new world order, that's gonna keep us in that low frequency, that's gonna keep us in that vibration of vibrating low. That's why they created, finances, things like that. So it's just a method of putting fear in us still. And when you're in a fearful state, you vibrate at a low frequency and you create the reality you want without even knowing. Your mind is creating that reality. So when they realized that and they enforced everything, you just know it's all being a brainwashing plot all along just to keep us in a low frequency. And the moment you can vibrate high, they can feed off your energy, they can feed off your life force. That's why in today's world, when people are depressed, when people go through anxiety, they always need somebody to talk to. They always want to, let's say therapist, you go to a therapist, it's just a form of life force exchange because they're vibrating low at a low frequency. So they need to, hang on to another life force that's vibrating higher than them so they can survive. It's kind of the same. So when people are put in this state of mind, they don't know what to do. They're confused. They don't have the knowledge to know they have the power to shift their situations because everything's been put in place to keep us in a low frequency, And there's certain behaviors that were introduced, certain characteristics that were introduced to keep us in a low frequency. And I wrote it down. You have emotional fracturing, you have carelessness, deceitful dependence, false reality division, divided competition, divide and conquer, and different things like that. That's when the whole issue of racism came in, the old issue of, different systems that's going to keep you in a state of being in fear. And once they can keep people in that cycle of fear, anxiety, deceitfulness, and things like that, they keep us in a low vibration. That's why they'll make you think, oh, if you're a good person, it never works out, because they know once you're a good person, you can tap into a higher vibration and access God consciousness. But then when these things have been put in place, even with the media these days, they always tell you lies, bro. They always tell you lies to keep you in fear. War, everything has been put in place to keep you in fear, so you stay at that low frequency so they can feed off your life force. That's where narcissism came, like the traits of narcissism, everything just came into play. Narcissists always want to feed off on other people's life force. They always want to feed up on everybody's energy around them. That's why they like to control, they like to dominate, they like to do things like that, because they know they're feeding off this person's emotions. Whatever emotions you give a narcissist, it just fuels their confidence, it fuels their ego, because that's the whole point, to keep you in a low state of mind. Like literally those people that act that way, sometimes they don't even know why they do things like that, but they just know they do it because they can understand it. It's deeper than what they know, it's deeper than the reality, and they just know they have things like that. So certain things have been put in place to make us feel like we can't break out of that cycle. That's why when you try to say, oh, I could see beyond everything going on, they call you woke, they call you delusional, they call you crazy, because you can actually see through the propaganda that's been playing along for a very long time. And that's why they try to silence people like that, because they know they're a threat to the powers or the system that was put in place. And once you can tap out of that mindset, you can tap out of that state of fear, that's when you start to see your true potential. You know, you start to see how blessed you are. You start to see how powerful you are. You start to see whatever you put your mind to, you can accomplish it. And it's things like that. Even people that were SA growing up, their souls been fractured because they grew up not thinking things would happen in the best way possible for them when it comes to dating and relationships like that, because they was assaulted when they was younger. So their souls been fractured already, so they can't vibrate at a high frequency to welcome love. And love is the only way we could get to that higher consciousness. So when you damage them from a young age, they automatically can't reach that frequency of love. So they definitely vibrate at a low frequency for them to feed off on. This shit is deep, bro. Like, I'm still trying to grasp it. The more I keep going down the rabbit hole, I'm still trying to grasp everything that's been going on, the mindset, the control, the ways to control us, and things to make us feel like we don't have no other option but to fall in line so they can keep feeding off that energy. But the fact that you can actually tap into your higher self and have that connection to God by yourself, that's what they're scared of. You know, even most of the religions we have today, I'm not trying to bash no religion, bro. Most of the religions we have today, they always preach God consciousness, being one with the divine, being able to tap into God. But then it's been distorted in a way where they have some truths and you have some things that have been put in there to make it seem like that's what really happened, you know. And this is a very, very controversial example. When Jesus came to earth, he was awoken. He could see through the matrix. He could see through everything. That's why they tried a lot to keep him down. And the fact that he was able to tap into that God consciousness and tap into that full human abilities we have, that's why I was able to perform certain miracles and things like that. They were able to sacrifice him and to show the world what happens when you try to go against the system that's been put in place. It's things like that it's been fabricated to make it seem like, yes, this is how it happened, he was crucified, this and that. That's perfectly fine. I'm not trying to bash nobody or nothing, bro. But then all these things I'm saying, they're online, bro. You could check it out. I'm not just making up things. So the fact that they're trying to show us, if you try to break out of the system, we'll do everything to put you down, because the people that put in the system there, they know, like, pushing these agendas, pushing these behaviors is going to keep us in a low vibration, low state. So they just do everything to make it seem like that's the regular thing or that's the way of life. But then you got to see through it. You got to be able to be conscious of things you do, conscious of how you think, how you act, what you eat. Everything plays a very, very crucial role. You know, the same way you have certain taste for certain food, it's the same way certain entities have they have certain taste for our negative emotions. You know, you have certain entities that feed off your fears, some feed off your anxiety, some feed off your depression. So these things, they know. That's why they try to keep us in that low vibration state, because the moment everybody can come into a unique consciousness of the power they have, all that entities have no power over us anymore, because they understand everybody's vibrating at a higher frequency, so they can't feed off on that. They can't feed off that. They always feed off on negative emotions. They always feed off on anger and shit like that. So what I'm just trying to say is, you have the power to control your thoughts, man. Whatever you want to think about, whatever you want to believe, you have the power to. But then they make you seem crazy if you don't fall in line to the existing beliefs. You have the power to do whatever you want to do, to think however you want to think, believe whatever you want to believe, as long as you're vibrating at a higher frequency that's going to keep you connected to that God source. That's when you can create the life you want. Honestly, once you vibrate at a higher frequency, manifestations, they come in faster because you're closer to the source. You are able to build the reality you want because you're closer to source. But then when we're disconnected, We don't have that power. We don't have that abilities. That's why we're able to be controlled and put in line to follow certain things or do certain things that's going to make you get to that point where you feel like, yes, you've arrived. But then the ultimate source or the ultimate reason for us existing is to be able to tap into that consciousness and experience that state of vibration where we can easily create the life we want. Because pre-existing civilizations, bro, they built the pyramids, bro. Till today, they don't understand. Scientists don't understand how it was built, because they vibrated at a higher frequency that gave them these abilities, these knowledge to be able to do things that we can't even fathom right now. So that's why it just seems like a conspiracy theory, because we're not able to understand. But the more you're tapped in, the more you're in tune, the more your creativity gets improved, the more you're able to see life better, clearer. You're able to create the life you want with your mind, because thoughts have power. Once you can control your thoughts, you can create the reality you want. It's a lot to, just put out there and take in. So that's why I'm just trying to put it out in the best way possible so I can explain it in the best way, And this just what's been going on in my mind, and just me going down the rabbit hole. I just had to share it and put y'all on.